a cairn that denotes the start of the Santanoni Express. And that is, I don't know if that's an official name, because, again, this is not a DEC managed trail, but it is what the unmarked trail going up to Santanoni Peak is called. And there is a cairn that is about 3.5 miles away from the parking area, and it has an SE carved into or scratched into a rock with an arrow. And that's your marker. Right? Look for that, and hopefully you don't miss it, because that's where you're going on to the Santanoni Express. When we got there, we had taken a quick little break and kind of mentally preparing, because this is where the elevation starts happening, right? I think you have to go up, it's like 1,900 feet in a mile and a half. So that
yeah, it's all there, that trail,
steep.
For sure, big time.
So yeah, we got to the junction. We found the cairn very easy. It's right in the middle of the trail. We can't really miss it unless your eyes are closed. We found a group of people were also taking a rest there, and they were actually coming from the Bradley Pond lean-to. So, we did the trail etiquette thing where we all talked and asked how their trip was. They asked where we were going for the day, and it turned out they actually were staying at the Bradley Pond lean-to for the last 3 or 4 days, and it had rained so much during their stay that they didn't even get all 3 mountains because the weather was so gnarly.
Wow.
They had to turn back a few times. So I'm like, well, thankfully the weather looks like it's going to be good for us today, Not really paying attention to some of the weird little internal signs that your body's like, did you actually hear what that person said? We were too much focused on the trip of the day. So, we chatted for a few moments, said our goodbyes and good lucks and enjoyed the days, and we made our way up the Express Trail. Like I said just a little while ago, that's a pretty steep one, and it really is the last place that you get water until you start coming down the Panther Brook Trail. When I say water, I mean good flowing, clean water, not stagnant.
Not the bog water.
Not bog water. Not really interested in filtering that if we don't have to. So we had decided to actually slug some water right there and filter, so we'd be all full up just in case. I think each of us had about 3 liters of water that day, which is pretty standard for a trip for us of that nature, 15 miles or so. We didn't want to miss out on filling up if we could avoid it. So we did. We stopped, right kind of at the last bit of the Express Trail that went near the brook, filled up, and started making our way to the top. Now, I'm not sure if you believe in fate or karma or anything like that, but this next piece is probably why we're actually having this conversation. We're climbing the mountain, and there were multiple times where Dave would say, "This is," and I quote, "this is the easiest Adirondack trail I've been on in the high peaks."
Famous last words.
Say, right? And he said this loudly and multiple times. And Mark and I were like, dude, you don't know. You're messing with forces we can't control. He still said it a few more times. It was said in jest, and we were having a great time. But it's one of those things where like, oh, no.
Sure,
what
totally.
have you done to us?
He marked you for a rough day ahead at that point.
Yeah, he really did. But I should note, we're still friends, and we still plan on doing trips, together. So this did not ruin any friendships. Spoiler. So we got to, I would say probably maybe a half mile from the top of the Santanoni Expressway. So we're about a mile up, and we're walking the trail, and it's kind of, the brush is coming in a little bit. We come to a tree that is downed across the trail, and we have to go underneath it, which I'm a big guy. So when I have blowdown that I have to crawl underneath with my backpack, I always go, it's a groaner for me,
Oh, dude,
getting
I can
down.
relate 100%. Same. It's just the worst, and I want to
I would
die
much
in
rather,
those moments.
yeah, I'd much rather climb around, over it or walk around it. But in this particular situation, it was a go under it or turn back, and turning back wasn't an option at that point. It was still early in the day. While we're looking at the obstacle, I saw there was off to the side a little stuffed eagle keychain thing. And it looked like it had been pulled off of somebody's pack. It wasn't just sitting there. It wasn't like somebody found it and just put it on the tree. It was off to the side a little bit, hanging off a little nub. And knowing, I always rub my pack on the bottoms of these trees when I'm climbing under. So I figure that's probably what happened. Looking at this eagle a little bit more, I actually remembered at the time seeing it on Facebook groups, for hiking in the Adirondacks. So this eagle, like, it flashed memories in my head. I'm like, wait a minute, I've seen pictures of this thing on Facebook. I bet I can get this to the owner and make somebody happy. So, it's a little stuffed eagle, so I just put it in the pack and ready to go. Keep on moving. Knowing it was there, but not really thinking about much of it. Just saying, okay, well, when I empty my pack and I get home, I'll find the owner and ship it out to them. Well, it turned out that when we got to the top of the express junction, kind of where you pop out of the woods and you're on the ridge line, and you can take a left to go up to Santanoni, or you take a right and go down into the Cull and Times Square, and kind of where that big junction is.
Yep.
Well, we decided to go left because we're right there at Santanoni, and the peak is, really close to that junction. We're going up to the top of Santanoni Peak, and down comes a hiker. And again, we're pretty friendly folks, so we say, hey, how's it going? What's going on? How's your day? And he was already done with his day, and it was maybe noon. And he was coming back down. I was like, wow, that's impressive. This guy's name was Don. And we chatted with Don for a couple of minutes. He told us that he was coming back from Cooksagraga, and met a group of women who were hiking, one of which was super bummed because she lost her stuffed animal, her eagle stuffed keychain. And I went, oh, are you kidding me? I just showed him, and he had already worked out a plan with the owner to go down the express, and if he found it, he would leave it in, on her car, underneath her windshield wiper blade. I went, oh, well, here, I already found it for you, so you're in good shape.
Amazing.
We said our goodbyes, and what's that?
That's amazing.
Yeah, super cool. So, we were earlier tempting the trail gods with mocking the trail for being the easiest, and, then we were blessed with some good luck. So,
yeah,
hey,
you won it back at that point. Now you're even. You're even.
Yeah, we're feeling pretty good about it. So, after we said our goodbyes and Dan took the stuffed animal, or Don rather took the stuffed animal, he was gone for the day. That guy was moving. I'm not fast by any stretch of the imagination. That guy was fast. But we got to the top of Santanoni, and like I said, it was about 12 o'clock. And looking at the plan for the day, I said, well, that's about 5 miles, and it's about 5 hours. So we're right on track with what I had thought was going to be good. Worked out really, really well, I think. Stood on Santanoni, took, the obligatory summit pictures with the sign, looked out. It's got a really great view up there. I was very impressed. You could see forever. It was a nice day, a little overcast, but not to the point where you couldn't see for miles and miles and miles. So it was awesome. We had a good time. Stayed up there. Like I said, it was lunchtime, so we ate our sandwiches and had a few laughs with some other hikers, and then we moved on. And I think at that point, we had stayed on the summit for, I think it was about a half an hour or so. And hindsight says that was too long based off of the needs for the day. But it was what it was, we were feeling pretty good. So we made our way down the trail towards Times Square. Now, Times Square is a big junction. where you come up from Santanoni, you have the trail that goes out to Cuxagraga, and you have a trail that goes a little bit further to another junction called Herald Square, which then goes up to Panther. Obviously, you know what the space is, and it's pretty interesting, but it can be very confusing as well.
Sure. Yeah, it's a cool spot. And yeah, when I was there too, I passed another group of hikers who thought they were going up a different mountain than they were on the way to Cuxagraga. So it definitely can be slightly confusing. It's important to really look at the map and kind of know exactly what mountains go off in certain spots. 100%.
Yeah, exactly. And so what we had was, I do a lot of research before the hike to make sure that I know, like I said earlier, the points of interest, kind of what the mileage is between each, so I can kind of gauge what our pace is and what we're doing and how we're doing it. Part of my research for this was somebody had come up with and provided a hand-drawn little sketch of both Times Square and Herald Square. And it was really cool, and they shared it online and said, hey, this might be helpful for anybody, and it sure was. So I included it in my plan, and, I had the printout of it, and having that kind of gave me the confidence that once we got to there, we were going to be perfectly fine.
Cool.
Yeah, it was very useful. I love the hiking community, the online hiking community. For the most part, and I would say 99%, everybody is super helpful, very grateful, and they're willing to share and make sure that everybody else can have the same type of enjoyment. I think that's awesome, and I really appreciate that.
I agree completely, and exactly, I would say the same thing. It's like, for the most part, you're going to get your bad eggs or your obnoxious people, but for the most part, everyone, is like, this is a hobby. We're just walking people. Like, let's chill out. Let's be very nice. Let's help everyone have a terrific time. And be successful in their endeavors outside. It's very nice and very helpful to be able to bounce questions off of or learn this from that person, learn this from the other person. Yeah, it's a terrific little community up here.
Yeah, and I'm glad to be a part of it. I think it's very fun. So, all right, back to our hike. Mark and I have a rule that if we are going to walk at separate paces, we always wait at junctions for each other. And that has been the rule since our first hike together in late 2015. So, that's just how we roll, that it's an understanding, and we explain that to anybody who wants to go with us. So Dave kind of knew what was going on. Well, as we're coming down the ridge from Santanoni and heading out to Times Square, Mark was feeling very energetic. So he was moving at a really good clip down the trail. Dave and I were back a little bit further. I think the downhill coming from Santanoni Peak, it's pretty steep. I don't know exactly how much elevation you lose, but it's not insignificant. And honestly, it's in a short period of time. It's like less than a mile. So we were taking it easy. Dave had his trekking poles out so that he had the support and wasn't going to slip and fall. So we were taking the precautions. But what ended up happening was we didn't reach Times Square until like 2:15 that afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
So it took us 90 minutes to go that 9/10 of a mile. At the time, I didn't think anything of it. I just went, wow, that took a lot longer than it should have, I think. Click, 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 click.
Sure.
That was one of those moments where, looking back with history and experience, that's the moment where something should have clicked.
You should have realized that you're off plan a little bit at that point. Sure.
Yep.
But it's hard to know those. It's hard to know that in the moment, So it's easy to look back and know that, and hindsight is 20/20. But in the moment when you're there, you're also too. It's like you're up there. The only thing in your mind is like, all right, we got to get on to the next mountain. So it is difficult to know those things at the time.
Yeah. I call it summit fever. Different people call it different things.
Definitely a good name.
So you kind of, like you said, you're there, and you kind of take a quick stock and go, well, I'm only a mile and a half from this, or I'm only a half mile from that. So, we're sitting in Times Square, and we go, okay, well, we can still make it. No big deal. Kind of trying